They fought over my will while I was still alive. So I gave it to someone who actually loved me. I heard them outside my hospital room already dividing up what they thought I'd leave behind. They never once asked if I was okay. Never once asked what I wanted. So I rewrote everything. This is how I made sure my name didn't die with me. It lived through him. Before I begin, thank you for listening to my story. Let me know in the comments where and what time you're tuning in from. Means more than you know. It reminds me that I'm not alone in this. And if you'd like to share your story with me, feel free to email it. I'll drop my email in the description below. Now let me tell you what really happened. I was still breathing when they started dividing my things. Monica wanted the bedroom set. Raymond asked if I'd already picked someone to handle my financial transition. Sabrina said I'd probably want her to handle my jewelry since she had the best taste. I lay there in my hospital bed, one arm dangling off the side trying to pretend I was asleep. But my ears were wide open. I didn't miss a word. They weren't whispering either. That was the part that stunned me. No shame, no hesitation, just casual planning like I was already gone. I remember the sound of Monica's pen tapping on her notepad while she read out bullet points. I already asked Realtor Donna for a basic appraisal. She said the house could go for at least $450 as is. Of course I'd have to update the kitchen. Knock down that back wall, open it up. Raymond asked if the investment account had a named beneficiary. Sabrina asked if there were extra keys to the car. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if God was watching the same show I was, because this didn't feel like family. This felt like a wake without a casket. My name is Evelyn Crenshaw. I'm 75 years old. I raised 3 children. I buried my husband 23 years ago. I worked 2 jobs most of my life. Never took a vacation past the state line. Saved every dollar like it owed me something. And apparently I raised 3 people who saw me as a burden with a property value. That part hurt. Not like heartbreak though. Worse, like someone carving their name into your back while you're asleep and hoping the scar stays after you're gone. It started after I fainted at church. I'd been fasting for 2 days for the women's retreat. Plus I'd skipped breakfast. I was standing too long during a hymn and the next thing I remember the world tilted. I fell into Sister Ruth's lap. They took me to the ER and kept me for observation. That's all it was. Low blood sugar. But the minute they admitted me overnight, my children acted like they were planning a funeral. Monica showed up with a folder. That was my first warning. She smiled that tight smile she wears when she's about to do something wrong, and wants it to look like leadership. Mama, she said, we need to discuss some next steps. Don't get upset. It's just time to think long term. I told her I'd be out of here in a day. She nodded like she was dealing with a confused patient. That's what we're hoping. But in case things go differently, we should be prepared. I asked where Marcus was. She didn't answer. Marcus is my grandson, 22, college student. Quiet, steady, thoughtful. He's Raymond's boy, but he didn't inherit his father's mouth or his mother's entitlement. Marcus has always been different. When the rest forgot my birthday, Marcus left a card in the mailbox with a pressed flower and a note that said, "Thank you for raising my dad." Even when he didn't know how to say thank you. When my knee flared up, Marcus brought me ice packs without me asking. When I was in the hospital last year, he came every night just to sit beside me and read his textbooks. He didn't need to speak. His presence did the work. He's the only one who never asked me what I planned to do with my money. And that's how I knew who deserved everything. They didn't know it yet, but I'd already changed the will. Quietly months ago, right after I saw Monica on my laptop Googling how to get legal authority over an aging parent. She claimed she was helping a friend. I said nothing, but I made a call the next morning to Monica Reeves, my lawyer, my friend, the only one who's kept my business locked down tighter than my old sewing box. I told her I wanted everyone removed from the will. Everyone but one. I told her I didn't want my house being gutted by people who didn't even ask how I was doing before opening their calculators. Monica Reeves listened without interrupting. "Are you sure?" she asked. "You don't want to leave them anything?" I said they already took everything they wanted except my piece, and I'm keeping that. We drafted something new. Not just a will, a statement, a legacy. I had a savings account tucked away from my sewing gigs and substitute teaching pay. I never told the kids. I always said money was tight. They never thought to ask why the fridge stayed full, or how I always had a new church hat come Easter. I was saving for something I hadn't named yet. Turns out I was saving for this. Monica helped me register the Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund, a foundation focused on helping Black girls and young mothers learn to read, pass the GED, and build confidence. It was something I dreamt about since my sister Josie dropped out at 16. I put every asset I had into it. The house, the stocks, the savings, the car. And I made Marcus the sole trustee. I didn't tell him. I wanted him to keep loving me like he always did without expecting a reward. That's what made it pure. Meanwhile, my children were circling like vultures. Monica brought in a dementia screening worksheet and asked if she could test me. I told her to test her own common sense. Sabrina offered to reorganize my closet and asked for the house keys. Raymond told the nurse he was next of kin and asked for my file. Nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody brought pie. Nobody held my hand when the meds made me dizzy except Marcus. He came that Friday with a lemon pie he baked himself. The crust was hard, but I ate every bite. When he offered me the last slice, I looked at that boy and thought, "You have no idea what's coming, and that's why you deserve it." If you think a grandson who bakes hard crust pie for his sick grandmother deserves more than children who only show up with folders and calculators, write Marcus in the comments. If you think I'm being too harsh, write harsh. But be honest with me. Monica Reeves never asked unnecessary questions. She didn't blink when I told her I wanted to cut my own children out of my will. She just leaned back in her chair and asked me what I wanted to do with everything instead. I told her I didn't want the house to become a rental. I didn't want the savings to go toward a cruise. I didn't want my quilt sold at garage sales or my sewing machine listed as vintage on the internet. I wanted everything I had built to go toward something that could outlive me, something that could fix what this family broke. She took notes quietly while I talked. I told her about the Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund. I told her it wasn't just about reading, it was about dignity, about giving girls who were dismissed a second chance. I told her Marcus would be the trustee. I didn't want a board. I didn't want 3 names on a checkbook, just him. If anyone deserved to build something real, it was the one who didn't ask me for anything but time. We filed everything that same month. Monica submitted the nonprofit registration, updated the deed, restructured my accounts. All my assets were rerouted to the foundation. Every dollar, the house, the car, the stock account, the contents of the safe deposit box. Marcus wouldn't inherit it. He'd control it. There's a difference. He couldn't use it for himself. He could only use it to give, teach, uplift, and preserve. He didn't know that yet, but when the time came he'd understand. Meanwhile, Monica and Raymond started getting pushier. Monica brought up estate clarity over dinner. Raymond mentioned survivor benefits, like he was reading off a list. Sabrina kept dropping hints about how complicated probate court can be. I just nodded and smiled. Let them build castles in the sand. Let them imagine how the furniture would look in their houses and how quickly they could flip the property. I didn't argue. I wanted them comfortable. Comfortable people get sloppy. I overheard Sabrina one morning on the phone in the hallway. She was talking to her sister. She said, "We're just trying to get through the next few weeks. Once she's settled, the rest is just paperwork." Settled. That's what she called me, being dead. Settled like a debt. I wrote it down. I had a little notebook beside my bed where I jotted down things I heard. I didn't trust my memory anymore. I trusted my pen. That page filled fast. Monica asked the nurse to fax over the DNR form. Raymond Googled how to claim life insurance early. Sabrina mentioned hospice options at lunch. Kept it all. Monica Reeves told me to write everything down just in case. Marcus kept showing up, still quiet, still thoughtful. He brought me a plant and said, "They say talking to plants helps them grow. Want me to leave it here so it has someone to talk to?" I said, "Yes." We named it Ruth. He didn't stay long that day. Had an exam to study for. But before he left, he kissed my forehead and said, "Don't let them stress you, Grandma. You're sharper than they think." That boy saw everything and said nothing. He didn't come with paperwork. He didn't ask about my will. He didn't look around the room like he was counting what could be sold. He just sat in the chair beside me and read. Real love is silent and steady. It's not loud like entitlement. It doesn't take up space. It fills it. A few nights later, I heard Monica and Raymond arguing downstairs. They thought I was asleep. Monica said. If she dies without clarity, we'll have to fight in court. You know that, right? Raymond replied. I thought she updated it. Didn't you say she was going to name us? Monica snapped. She's been dragging her feet. I don't know what she's waiting for. Then she said it. She said, we need to push it gently but firmly. If she's slipping, we can make a case for guardianship. My hands clenched. Guardianship. That's what they wanted. Not love, not care. Control. Legal power to override me before I even had a chance to finish breathing. If your own children were planning to take your legal rights away while you were still lucid, still fighting, still breathing, drop a heart in the comments. Let me know I'm not the only one who's been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect me. I told Monica Reeves everything the next day. She added a clause to the trust. If anyone contested the will or claimed I was coerced, they'd be permanently disqualified from receiving or accessing any part of the fund, even through lawsuits. It was airtight. I signed it with my whole name in clear ink in front of 2 witnesses. That Sunday, Monica brought over a folder labeled Living Directive. She tried to smile while she explained it. It's just to make things easier for all of us, she said. In case you can't speak for yourself. I opened it and saw a list of boxes to check. Life support, resuscitation, organ donation, comfort-only care. At the bottom, it had a blank space for a proxy, someone to speak on my behalf. She'd already filled it in. Her own name. She wanted me to sign it that afternoon. I closed the folder, handed it back and said, I'll think on it. She smiled and said, of course, no pressure. But I saw her hand tighten on the spine of the folder. She wasn't smiling with her eyes. That night I called Marcus, told him to come by the next day. I didn't tell him why, just said, bring an appetite. I made lemon pie again. Crust still came out too thick. He said it was perfect anyway. He stayed for hours that day just talking about school, about dreams, about the nonprofit ideas he was researching. He had no idea the foundation he'd one day run already had his name on it. He looked at me and said, Grandma, you ever think about how you want to be remembered? I stared at him for a long time. Then I said, not really. I'm too busy remembering who I am now. It happened on a Wednesday. I had just come back from a routine scan and the nurse had wheeled me into my room. I was tired but alert. The curtains weren't fully drawn and I could hear voices from the hallway. First, I thought it was just idle conversation. Nurses changing shifts or patients talking too loud. But then I heard my name. Clear as day. If Evelyn doesn't sign soon, we'll have to start making decisions without her input. Monica's voice, clipped and professional like she was running a business meeting. Raymond said, you said she was getting worse. If that's true, we could use it in court. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just listened. Sabrina chimed in then. The neighbor said she's been confused lately. That's witness testimony, right? Raymond laughed. At the very least, it builds the case. We just need to act fast before she starts giving things away. Giving things away. Like I was a sack of groceries, a broken lamp, a pile of old shoes. Not once in that entire conversation did they say the word Mom. Not once did they say my name like it meant something other than paperwork. My hand stayed still on the blanket. But my heart was thundering. They kept talking. Monica said, once we file for temporary guardianship, we can freeze the accounts and sort out the property cleanly. Sabrina said, and what about the safe deposit box? Does she even remember what's in there? Raymond replied, we'll take her, have her open it, say it's for insurance verification, then just hold on to the key. I nearly choked on my own breath. These were my children, my family, plotting to control my body, my money, my name while I was still alive, still lucid, still breathing in the next room. They left before I could say anything. I didn't want to. What was there to say? That I heard them? That I was hurt? They knew what they were doing. They just didn't think I was sharp enough to catch it. That was the part that burned. The fact that they thought I wouldn't know. Would you let this happen to your own mama? Right, never if you'd protect her dignity. Right, maybe if you think they had a point. But tell me the truth. Marcus showed up later that afternoon. No warning. Just walked in with a smile and a bag of pastries from the campus cafe. I thought you might want something sweet, he said. He sat beside me and opened the paper bag. They had those little lemon tart things you like. I didn't say much at first, just watched him unwrap one and hand it to me like he always did, with care, not pity. When I finally looked at him, I said, "Do you think I'm losing it?" He frowned. "What?" I repeated the question. "Do you think I'm confused? Slipping?" "Not myself." He shook his head. "No, you're tired because they keep swarming you. You're not confused. You're just surrounded by people who want to make you think you are." I swallowed hard. That boy always saw through everything. He didn't ask why I looked shaken. Didn't press me. Just handed me the tart and said, "You're still the sharpest person in the room. They're just mad they're not the ones holding the pen." The next morning I called Monica Reeves. I told her everything, every word I heard, every detail. I even sent her the page from my notebook. She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "We can reinforce the will. Add language that explicitly blocks any party who contests the terms from receiving assent." I told her to do it. And I told her I wanted to write a statement, something personal to be read aloud when the will was opened. She said, "Yes, take your time with it. Write it how you want it remembered." So I did. I wrote it that night in bed, the moonlight coming in through the blinds. I wrote every word slowly, carefully, without anger. I didn't want it to sound like revenge. I wanted it to sound like truth. Marcus came again on Friday. He brought a small pot of soup. "I didn't season it right," he admitted. "But it's warm." I ate it anyway. He told me about a girl in his class who was struggling with literacy and how he'd been helping her after lectures. I smiled to myself, thinking this is what the foundation was made for. He doesn't even know he's already doing the work. I told him he should start something one day, a place where young women could study, take exams, rebuild their paths. He shrugged and said, "That would be cool, but I wouldn't know where to start." I almost laughed because he was already the one I started it for. Later that evening, Monica stopped by again. My daughter, not the lawyer. She brought a tray of sugar-free cookies I didn't ask for and sat at the edge of the bed like she was visiting a patient in hospice. She talked at me. "Raymond's been looking at assisted living options. Not because you're not doing well, but just to be safe." I looked at her and said nothing. She continued, "You've been through a lot. We just want what's best." I asked her what she thought was best. She hesitated. "Something manageable, something structured. Somewhere you won't have to worry about stairs or bills or remembering appointments." I nodded slowly. "And would I have a say in this?" Her face twitched. "Of course, but you know how decisions can get cloudy when things accelerate." Accelerate. That word. I said I needed to rest. She left without arguing. The next morning, I asked Monica Reeves to schedule the official will signing. I told her I didn't want to wait anymore. I'd seen what I needed to see. There was nothing left to wonder about. My children were already building their future on the grave of mine. And I was still here, still breathing, still holding the pen. I signed the will the following Thursday. Monica Reeves brought the full packet to the house herself. She laid everything out carefully on the kitchen table, each clause, each signature line, each witness form in its proper place. I made her read it out loud to me slowly from start to finish. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I wanted to feel every word seal into place. When we got to the part where it named Marcus as the sole trustee of the Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund, I closed my eyes for a second and pictured his face. Thought about how his hands trembled when he handed me that overcooked pie. Thought about how he never once asked what he'd be getting when I was gone. Thought about the way he read to me from his textbooks like my ears still had something worth learning. I opened my eyes, picked up the pen and signed my full name. Evelyn Geneva Crenshaw. The air in the room felt lighter when I finished. The next day they came. Monica first, dressed like she was heading to a bank meeting. Navy blazer, pearls, clipboard. Raymond showed up 30 minutes later in his pressed shirt and loafers. Sabrina arrived last with a store-bought cheesecake and a forced smile. "We thought we'd have a family meeting," Monica said, "to go over care options long-term." I told them to sit down. I had tea brewing. I poured everyone a cup and let them settle in, thinking they were in control. Monica pulled out a folder labeled Transition Plan. Raymond had a printed spreadsheet with property value estimates. Sabrina had tabs open on her phone for assisted living facilities with high staff ratings. I listened without interrupting. Monica cleared her throat and said, "Mama, we think it's time you consider a more stable situation. Something safer, less responsibility. You've done enough. You've earned rest. She said it like she was giving me a gift. Raymond added, we're happy to take care of all the financial logistics. All you have to do is agree. Sabrina smiled wide. This isn't about control. This is about love. I took a long sip of my tea and looked at each of them one by one. Then I said, thank you for your thoughts, but everything's already been handled. Monica blinked. What do you mean? I said it again. Handled. The house, the accounts, my care. All of it. Raymond leaned forward. Wait, did you already name someone? Who? I looked at him. Yes, I did. And it's not you. That's when Sabrina lost her smile. Monica narrowed her eyes. Mama, what exactly did you do? I set my cup down and stood up. I don't stand for long these days, but I made sure to do it slow and steady. You'll find out when the lawyer calls. Raymond scoffed. You made a mistake. I smiled at him. No, I made a choice. They didn't yell. Not then. They stood up quietly and left. Monica forgot her clipboard on the chair. Sabrina left the cheesecake behind. Raymond didn't say goodbye. Later that evening, Marcus stopped by. He brought a bag of groceries, soup, bread, tea. He asked how I was doing and I told him. Better now. We sat on the porch and watched the sun dip behind the trees. I asked him what he wanted to do after college. He said, I don't know yet. I just want to help people. I looked at him long and hard. You're already doing that. He laughed. By bringing you soup? I didn't answer, just reached over and patted his hand. The next morning, Monica Reeves called to confirm the will was fully executed and filed. The foundation was active. Marcus's name was officially registered as trustee. It's done, she said. You're protected. I thanked her. She paused before hanging up. Just a heads up, your daughter called my office. She sounded upset. I smiled. Let her be. She's been building a story where I don't exist. It's time she finds out I wrote a different ending. 3 days passed before I heard from any of them again. Then Raymond sent a text that read, we need to talk. There's still time to reverse things if you're being influenced. I didn't reply. Sabrina left a voicemail with no apology, just confusion. I thought we were doing the right thing. If we came off pushy, that wasn't the intention. Then came Monica's message. We have no idea what you've done. But it won't hold. Not legally. If Marcus or someone else coerced you. I deleted the message before she could finish. I wasn't angry. Not even bitter. I was clear. Marcus didn't know yet. I still hadn't told him. I wanted the moment to come on its own. The gratitude, the understanding he'd get there. I'd written him a letter. Not just a note, 10 pages. My story, my reasons, the betrayal, the hope. I left it sealed in Monica Reeves's office to be read at the same time as the will, because some truths don't need to be spoken out loud. They just need to land when they're meant to. That evening I baked again. The crust turned out right this time. Marcus came over and took the first bite and said, Grandma, this might be your best one yet. I looked at him and said, good, because everything after this is yours. He smiled, not knowing what I meant, and I didn't explain. Not yet. The will reading was held in Monica Reeves's office the following week. She called them all personally, not because she had to, but because I asked her to. I wanted them to show up. I wanted them to hear it from someone who wouldn't flinch when they started getting loud. Monica, Raymond, and Sabrina arrived dressed like it was a memorial service. Monica wore a stiff black suit with gold buttons like a TV lawyer. Raymond had the same gray slacks he wore to church funerals. And Sabrina came in a muted floral dress, her eyes already moist like she was preparing to cry for the cameras. Marcus showed up last, simple, polite, quiet as always. Jeans and a button-up, holding a notebook and a pen. He didn't know what this was about. All I had told him was, you should be there. So he came. Monica Reeves sat at the head of the table, calm as ever. No small talk, no fake smiles, just business. We're here to review the last will and testament of Evelyn Geneva Crenshaw, she said. Executed and witnessed under full legal compliance. Before I begin, let me remind everyone that this reading is being recorded and notarized. She looked up. Any objections? No one spoke. Of course they didn't. They thought they were about to cash in. She began to read. To my daughter Monica, my son Raymond, and my daughter Sabrina. I leave you each the memory of the choices you made while I was alive. May they remind you what real value looks like." Sabrina gasped. Monica's mouth fell open. Raymond blinked like he hadn't heard it right. Monica Reeves didn't pause. She turned the page. "I hereby place all financial accounts, investment portfolios, safe deposit contents, and all personal property into the Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund, a foundation created in my name to support the education and advancement of Black women and girls who have been denied opportunity." Sabrina's hand flew up. "Excuse me, what does that mean? Like, what's left for the family?" Monica Reeves looked at her and said, "Let me finish. The home at 132 Larks Lane is hereby deeded to the foundation to be used as its physical headquarters and tutoring site. The property may not be sold, rented, or transferred outside of the fund's mission." Monica gripped the edge of the table. "That's my childhood home." Raymond muttered, "This is a joke. This can't be real." Monica Reeves calmly turned to the final page. "The Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund shall be directed by one trustee, Marcus Elijah Crenshaw. He shall have sole authority over fund disbursements, programming, staffing, and property management. This designation is final and not subject to legal challenge under Clause 7B. Any individual who contests this decision shall forfeit all residual claim to the estate or foundation assets." Silence. Dead, humming silence. Then Monica spoke. She was manipulated. She wasn't in her right mind. Sabrina chimed in. "This is elder abuse. That boy, he must have gotten to her somehow." Raymond crossed his arms. "I want to see proof. I want to see video, handwriting, something." Monica Reeves opened a sealed envelope. She wrote a letter to be read aloud. She asked that it be delivered after the will was heard. She took a breath and opened it. Marcus sat frozen, his hand still holding his pen above the notebook. She began. "To my children Monica, Raymond, and Sabrina. I heard you in the hallway. I heard you around my bed. I saw the forms you brought. I saw the way you looked at my things like they were prizes in a raffle. And I saw who didn't. I saw who came to sit quietly. I saw who brought pie and soup and crossword puzzles instead of bank statements. I saw who never asked what they were getting, only what I needed. To the three of you, I leave no material gifts. I tried to give you everything that mattered while I was alive. You refused it. You mocked it. You turned love into a strategy. And I won't reward that. To Marcus, you never asked for anything, and that's why you're receiving everything that matters. Not to keep, to grow. You've always had your grandfather's heart. I hope this helps you carry his name forward with the same quiet strength. Signed with clarity and no regret. Evelyn Geneva Crenshaw." When Monica Reeves finished reading, the room sat still for a long moment. Marcus didn't speak. His eyes were glassy, but his face held steady. Then Monica exploded. "We're not letting this stand." She was not mentally sound. Monica Reeves cut her off. "Medical evaluations were done. Witnesses signed. And if you file a challenge, Clause 7B activates immediately. You won't even be allowed to mention her name in a financial claim." Raymond stood up. "She was our mother." Sabrina added. "She owed us better than this." Monica Reeves folded the letter and said, "She gave you exactly what you gave her. Nothing." That was the moment Marcus stood. Just stood. No speech, no defense, no tears. He nodded once and left the room. They didn't follow. They couldn't. "If you think I did the right thing, write Evelyn in the comments. If you think I was wrong, write wrong. But tell me honestly, what would you have done?" Marcus didn't come by for a few days after the will reading. I didn't blame him. I knew the weight of it had to settle in. Not the money. He wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about the meaning, the responsibility, the pressure of being trusted with something bigger than himself. I'd felt the same way when I became a mother. You don't ask for it, but once it's in your hands, you either rise or you run. Marcus was not the type to run. When he finally showed up, it was quiet. No announcement, no knocking, just the sound of the front door creaking open and his voice calling, "Grandma." I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and an old gospel record playing low in the background. He stepped into the room like he wasn't sure he was welcome, like he'd been holding his breath since he left the lawyer's office. He had a nervous look I'd never seen on him before. Not fear, but something softer, like reverence wrapped in shock. He sat across from me. No pie this time, no soup, just a silence thick with questions. Why me? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I looked at his hands folded on the table. Those same long fingers his grandfather had. The ones that never pointed blame, only held you steady. I set my cup down and said, because you never asked for anything. You just showed up. He blinked. But I didn't do anything special. You didn't have to, I said. You loved me while I was still breathing. They were waiting for the last breath. He lowered his head. I'm not ready to run a foundation. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. You're not ready because you care. That's how I know you'll do it right. He didn't cry. Not then, but his mouth shook and he nodded like a boy being told his life was about to change. Later that night, I walked through the house slowly. I touched the walls, the old photo frames, the doilies folded under the lamp base. All the small things I used to straighten every morning without even thinking. Now they held more than dust. They held memory. And I realized this house was never mine to keep. It was mine to give. And I'd given it to the only soul who'd ever sat inside it without claiming something. The next few weeks moved slow. The Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund opened its first program that fall. GED classes were hosted in the old church basement. Marcus oversaw the hiring of 2 part-time tutors and helped write a grant application for laptops. The living room of my house, the one Monica had once planned to knock walls out of, became a study center. He moved the coffee table aside and replaced it with a reading nook and whiteboard. He put up a hand-painted sign over the door that read, Evelyn's room. I didn't ask for that. He just did it. Word got around fast. Local women started stopping by with questions, with donations, with stories. One girl, 18, mother of 2, told Marcus she hadn't read out loud in public since the 7th grade. He sat with her every afternoon after class. She passed her exam by winter. Another woman, nearly 60, whispered to me after class that she hadn't signed her name without help in over a decade. But I'm learning again, she said. Your grandson told me it's never too late. I smiled. Not because of what they said, but because I already knew what love planted would grow. As for my children, they went quiet. No calls, no visits, just silence. Monica sent one email to Monica Reeves demanding a review. She was politely reminded that contesting the will would disqualify her entirely. She never responded after that. Raymond was seen at the bank asking about frozen accounts. Sabrina left a voicemail on my phone that I never returned. They faded the way people do when the spotlight isn't on them anymore. When the money dries up, so does the concern. I watched their names fade from caller ID and realized I didn't miss them. I missed what I thought they were. I didn't grieve them. I grieved what they could have been. One afternoon, Marcus came in while I was folding laundry. He had a brown envelope in his hand and a nervous look on his face. There's a donor who wants to match our next round of funds, he said. But they want to meet the founder. I smiled and said, then you tell them she'll see them Wednesday. He laughed. You're not done yet, are you? I looked at him and said, no, and neither are you. We walked to the community center that evening for the open house. He helped me down the steps. People clapped when I came in, though I didn't ask for it. There were banners and books and photos of the first class of students. Someone handed me a mic. I didn't prepare a speech. I just said I gave what I had because what I had was love. And this is what love looks like when it keeps going. The room was silent except for the creaking of chairs and the hum of the overhead lights. I saw someone in the back wipe their eyes. Marcus stood beside me, tall and still, the way his grandfather used to stand when I spoke in church. Not proud, present. Fully and wholly present. He didn't need the spotlight. He was the work behind the curtain. He didn't need the spotlight. He was the work behind the curtain, the hand on the back of the movement. Afterward, someone asked me quietly if I ever regretted cutting my children out. I looked at her, a stranger with soft eyes and a notepad in her lap, and I said no. I didn't flinch. I didn't sigh. I said it the way I signed the will, with clarity and peace. Because they fought over my will while I was still alive. And I gave it to someone who actually loved me while I still was. Like this video if you believe love should be earned, not expected. Subscribe if you think there are more stories like mine that need to be told. And share this with someone who needs to remember that silence doesn't mean weakness. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. I want to know who's still out there hearing women like me. Drop a heart if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Write respect if you think dignity matters more than blood. And if you have a Marcus in your life, someone who shows up without asking for anything, tell them today. Don't wait until it's too late to let them know they're seen. The foundation is still running. Marcus is still there every day, still quiet, still steady. Still the boy who brought hard crust pie and called it perfect. The women who come through those doors, they don't know my whole story. They just know that someone believed they deserved better. Someone believed they were worth investing in. That's all any of us really want. To be worth something to somebody while we're still here to feel it. I'm 81 now. My hands shake when I write, but my mind is clear. Clearer than it's ever been. I know what I built. I know what I gave. I know what I kept. My children still don't call. But the women in the literacy program, they send me cards. They invite me to graduations. They name their daughters after me. One young mother, barely 22, brought me a photo of her daughter's first day of school. She said, "This is because of you. Because you believed we could learn." I keep that photo on my nightstand, next to the last letter Marcus wrote me when he finished his master's degree. Next to the pressed flower from that first birthday card he left in my mailbox all those years ago. Those are my treasures now. Not stocks or bank statements or property deeds. Pictures of futures I helped make possible. Words from hearts I helped heal. Monica drives past the house sometimes. I see her slowing down, looking at the sign that says Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund, where our old mailbox used to be. Sometimes she parks across the street and just sits there in her car, watching women walk up the front steps with books in their hands and hope in their eyes. I wonder what she thinks when she sees that. I wonder if she understands what she lost when she chose to see me as an obstacle instead of a mother. But that's not my burden to carry anymore. I gave them everything I could while I was breathing and present and able to love them back. They chose to wait for my death to claim me. So I chose to give my life to people who wanted to live alongside it. That's the difference between legacy and inheritance. Inheritance is what you leave behind when you're gone. Legacy is what you build while you're still here to see it grow. The Crenshaw Women's Literacy Fund isn't my inheritance to Marcus. It's my legacy with him. We built it together, breath by breath, choice by choice, day by day. And when I do take that final breath, whenever that time comes, I'll go knowing that my name is carved into something beautiful. Something lasting. Something that lifts people up instead of letting them down. I'll go knowing that loved one. Not the loud, demanding kind that comes with conditions and expectations. The quiet, steady kind that shows up with soup and stays to read textbooks. The kind that never asks what it's getting, only what it can give. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that an old woman's truth was worth your time. Share this story if you think other people need to hear it. Save it if you need to remember what real love looks like. And remember this, you're never too old to rewrite your ending. You're never too late to choose who deserves your love. And you're never too small to build something bigger than yourself. They fought over my will while I was still alive. But I had the pen. And I wrote my own story. Subscribe to Granny's Truths if you want to hear more stories like mine. Hit the notification bell because every week, there's another grandmother, another truth, another reminder that we're still here, still breathing, still worth listening to. Until next time, this is Evelyn reminding you to love the people who love you back while you still can.